go through some of this stuff that happened in this town hall that, I'll be honest, we didn't know was coming until bang, it pops
happened,
up.
yeah.
I've got to say, as opposed to Joe Biden, who won't even sit down and do a hard interview, he sits down with Bill Clinton's communications guy, a guy who is well and truly all in on the Democrats.
In a stacked audience.
Stacked audience, all the rest of it. Here's part of what he said today, particularly about a vaccine. Have a look at this.
The previous administration would have taken perhaps years to have a vaccine because of the FDA and all the approvals, and we're within weeks of getting it. You know, could be 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but we think we have it. Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, we have great companies, and they're very, very close.
When talking about the economy, of course, he's not a fan if Biden becomes president.
If Joe Biden ever got in, I think you'd have a depression the likes of which we've never seen in this country. If you look at his policies where he wants to raise everybody's taxes, you look at what he wants to do in terms of regulation, where he wants to put all of the regulations back on that I took off and then some, and in many cases double it up, you will have a depression the likes of which we haven't seen in this country.
Now, what confounds the left about Trump in a setting like this is they expect him to be a Catherine wheel, but he wasn't a Catherine wheel. Even when, as you say, a stacked audience, direct questions that were all timed at tripping him up, level.
This is the Trump MO, and you don't have to be a Trump fan to understand this if you are willing to look at this with an open mind. During the 2016 campaign, you know, we had the exact same phenomenon. We had the media here in the United States, the ABC, all the Fairfax, then now Channel 9 papers, you know, all saying, this guy's a disaster. He says all these ridiculous things. He shoots off the cuff. And then every day I would be listening to the actual press conferences he was holding, the rallies he was holding. He would take 45 minutes, an hour, hour and a half questions every single day from a really hostile press, handle it intelligently. He's doing the same thing now. He gets no credit for that. But Joe Biden, on the other hand, I think he had one interview with that rapper woman, Cardi B, or somebody like that. You know, he won't go in front of any sort of hostile press at all. The press throws him, when they do get him, they throw him the softest questions. You know, gosh, Joe Biden, shouldn't we all be even more angry at Donald Trump for being such a terrible man?
What do you think of his soul?
Yeah, you know, and it's just the same thing. I mean, I don't know if you remember Chris Matthews, the American journalist, when Obama was running for president. He said, you know, ooh, Obama makes a shiver run up my leg. Ooh. You know, ooh, look at the crease in his pants, you know? And it was this sort of just horrendous, you know, onanistic worshiping of the Democrat candidate. We're seeing it again. I think the American people see through it. I think that's why the polls aren't reflecting exactly what's happening. I don't think they will. And for another reason, too, I think if I lived in America and somebody called me up and said, I'm not telling you who I am, but, you know, would you vote for Donald Trump? And if you see what happens to people who are Trump supporters, no one's going to tell you they're a Trump supporter.
Exactly. So I ask this question of people that I respect like your good self all the time, right, which is all of the data says that things are worse than the situation of 2016 in terms of a Trump victory, right? Now, we agree with the worldview of Trump, but what is the data or what do you look to?
Well, and yet, I mean, like you look at things like Florida, which was supposed to be completely a Democrat walkover state, you know, and you see that is evening up very, very,
North Carolina,
very closely. North Carolina. We can go through other states like that. We also see where the spends are happening, and Trump is spending money in states that should be Biden states. So that shows that there's internal polling that's showing that some of these states that might not have been in play are in play. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be an easy walk-in for Trump. I do not think that. I don't think it's going to be a landslide either. What I do actually think, and what I'm genuinely worried about, Paul, is the idea that on election night we don't have a winner, that these mail-in ballots create such muddied water. You know, I don't want everybody out there to look into something called the Transition Integrity Project.
Oh, yes.
This is a Democrat Soros-run machine that is entirely designed with the help of big mouthpieces in the liberal media, the Atlantic Monthly, the Washington Post, basically to say, hey, nice country you got there, America, be ashamed if something were to happen to it. Know what I'm talking about, capiche? Yeah. And they're saying that these are mobster standover tactics, which are saying, if you don't vote for Biden, this is going to be civil war.
I also think that you cannot underestimate the work rate of a politician, right?
Correct.
So one of the reasons that I could see Scott Morrison was more than a chance at the last election. Was his work rate was so much harder than what Shorten was doing, right? Literally, remember the telephone town halls, the waking up in Tasmania, all of that stuff, right? The work rate of Trump versus Biden it's not even in the same league. Literally, Trump will be in 4 different parts of the country in one day, and Biden will do something in the basement because yesterday he had to travel 10 k's to give a speech.
It's like if wars are won actually on the production line. Who's making the most tanks, who's making the most planes. Political campaign is who's getting in front of the most people. Same thing happened with Morrison, as you said. Same thing happened in 2016. All those huge rallies while Hillary was having little genteel lunches in Manhattan and the Hamptons and Hollywood and all of that, and not actually getting in front of huge crowds of people. And it's just almost, democracy is a function of how many people you can get to in front of.
And also,